welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Dash. In today's video, I'm gonna be showing y'all how to make a beat for Babysantana, kind of like his song Antisocial or Antisocial 2. So I have a little bit of a melody that sounds like it could basically be Antisocial 3, and I'm gonna break it down for y'all, put some drums on it, and it's gonna be a grand old time. And also, as y'all can see, I got the new chair for my birthday, so now I'm basically a professional YouTuber. So yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. Make sure you subscribe if you like this type of content. Make sure you go cop my drum kit if you want to get your drums smacking. And yeah, let's get into it. So like I said, I have this Babysantana Antisocial sounding melody that I made, and it's really fire. So I'm gonna go ahead and play the full loop for y'all, and then I'll break down how I made like each individual sound. So yeah, I think that's pretty gas, so I'm gonna go ahead and start breaking down how I made that. So most of the sounds from this beat come from my boy Sunboy's new one-shot kit they just dropped. I believe it's the Psycho one. He sent it to me. It's fire. It's super inspiring, easy to make a melody with. So if y'all want the link to that, I'll drop that down in the description. But yeah, most of the sounds that I used for this melody came from his kit. All right, so first sound that I started with is this synth from the one-shot kit called Punk Wave. It sounded really like gritty and kind of distorted, which I really like for these types of beats. So here's what this synth sounds like by itself. So as you can tell, that heavily utilizes the 6/4 progression. That's all the progression is. It's just the 6 chord and the 4 chords. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, let me give you a quick little music theory lesson. So when you're in a scale, like for instance in this beat, we are in E major. A lot of people are commenting, asking how I know that it's in E major. Basically, all you have to do is find out whatever the 6 is, which is technically this C sharp, and then all you gotta do is count up one whole step and then a half step to find the key. So in this case, you count up a whole step, then a half step, and you know it's in the key of E major. Basically, that's because every minor key has a relative major. So technically the way that I'm describing it to y'all is not right. Technically it is in C sharp minor because it never hits the 1, but I was just like trained, or like the theory that I learned when I was younger, it was always in major scale, so it's just easier for me to explain that way, and I actually know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I don't know if that made any sense, but in the key of E you have 7 notes. You got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the 7, and then it resets back to the 1. So basically inside of that scale, what we want for these type of beats is the 6 and the 4. You can try to throw a 2 or 3 in there, but most of the time you're going to be hearing a lot of 6/4 progressions. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and duplicate this and then remake this from scratch and kind of show how I did it. So what I did first is I counted up to the 6 and then I made a minor chord, because in every scale the 1, the 4, and the 5 are major, and then the 2, the 3, and the 6 are minor. So for our 6, we're going to want it to be minor. So I made a minor chord by skipping 3 notes and putting a note right here, and then skipping 4 notes and putting a note right there. So here's what a normal minor chord would sound like. So then what I did is I took this middle note and I flattened it just by using shift down arrow, and then I put it up an octave. This will basically give it just a more like dark vibe with the flattened third. You can always just mess around with your notes, move them around a little bit to try to give it a darker sound. So here's what that sounds like. So it kind of sounds like the chord that we had, but then what I did here is I just took out this 5th because I thought it sounded a little bit too majory, and I just took this C sharp and then copied it up an octave by using shift and then just dragging the note up. So it basically makes this really like messed up sounding chord that's not the way the chord's supposed to be, and here's what that chord sounds like. So I like that chord a lot, but then I knew I needed to kind of resolve it back down to the 5th to kind of really like be satisfying, you know what I'm saying, and give you that satisfaction. So I added back in the 5th. I just added it in later in the chord. So here's what that sounds like. So there's how I made my 6th chord. And then for the 4 chord, it was a really similar process, but I just made a major chord since, again, the 4 is major. So I just took my 4, which in this case is A, and then I made a major chord. Then I moved that 5th over, just like I did for the other chord, and then I brought that 1 up. So I took the middle note, flattened it by 2 notes, because when you're doing a major chord and you want to flatten the 3rd, you want to do it by 2 notes. So I did that, put it up an octave, and then this is what those chords sound like. So that was basically my thought process for making those chords. I know it sounds kind of complicated, but that's basically just because I was kind of just throwing random notes in there. Like I kind of knew what I was doing, but I was just trying to mess up the chords so they don't just sound like a 6 and a 4. So with that being said, that's how I got this little progression. So then what I started to do after that is I started to layer a couple more synth sounds on top of that with the exact same chord progression. So I pulled up this Psycho lead from Sunboy's kit and just copy and pasted that exact same pattern. So now let me show you what it sounds like with these 2 other synths that I layered with the exact same chord progression. You basically just want to do this if you ever want to give your synth like a fuller sound. It's just a really good way of like when you want to make a full sounding synth pattern, you just want to layer a couple different synths on top of each other and kind of turn them all down. So here's what the other 2 synths sound like. And then the other one sounds like this. And then with all three of them together, it sounds like this. So now that I showed you how I made the synth progression, let's move on to this little bass. The bass is the most simple thing ever. All you want to do is go into your chords and find your root notes. So we know we need the 6 and the 4, which in this case is C sharp and A. And then all I did is I went into this bass sound from Sunboy's Kit, and then I just put it on C sharp and A. So here's what that sounds like. So I love this bass. It sounds super gritty, super nasty. As far as effects on this bass sound, all I really did was cut out some of the lows so that it doesn't clash with our 808, and then add some Camel Crusher, just a distortion preset to make it sound super messed up and distorted. So here's what the bass and the synths sound like together. As you can tell, the bass really helps to just fill in that low end and give it just more of a gritty sound. So then the next thing that I did is I added this little bass to fill in this little space in the melody. Now you might have noticed that I put this space and wondered why I did that. This is not exactly a thing that they do in Antisocial, but it is a really cool thing that you can do in your beats that gives it a super interesting sound, just stopping your chords so that you have complete silence during certain parts of the melody. So let me play this for y'all and show y'all what I mean. At the end of all of these chords, there's complete silence, so listen to it. There's complete silence for like 2 clicks of the metronome. You can do 2 clicks, you can do 1 click, you can play with it. But normally I like to put it at the end of each 2 bars, or maybe at the end of each 4 bars. Just play with it, make it your own. But I like adding that silence in. And then what I normally do is I fill it in with this bass. Shout out to Shark Boy. This is from his Meta one-shot kit, but it's this ecstasy bass. So all I did here is I basically just made a little bass pattern. Originally, I had it like the same thing on both sides. So here's what that sounded like. But then I started to think that that sounded a little too repetitive, so what I did is on the first half, I just brought this note down. So this is what that sounds like. So yeah, pretty simple, but it's a cool little pattern that fills in that space at the end of the melody. So the final sound that I added is this super high-pitched distorted synth lead. You want to use these in your beats because it kind of gives like, it just gives you that like stank face when you just know the song is fire, but you know the beat is fire. So for this lead, I used one of the synths from Sunboy's sound kit, and basically all I did was I made a pretty simple melody just using notes that are in the scale. I just made it off the top of my head, kind of played it out on my MIDI keyboard, and I put it towards the end of the melody, and I use this slide function, which I'll show y'all in a second, but let me just show y'all what this lead sounds like in the context of the melody. So it's pretty gas. It really just fills in the last space in the melody. But yeah, the way that I made it is I just used notes in the scale. And right here, what I did is I took this F sharp and slid it up to a G sharp. All you have to do to do that is just copy the note up, shorten it up a little bit so that it slides up to the note faster. And then just double click on the note and click on this little triangle button right here. Click accept. This will make that F sharp slide up to a G sharp, and it gives it a really cool effect. And then with the synth, I made it stop when everything else stopped, just so we have complete silence other than that bass that's playing. And then right here, I use that same trick of just changing it slightly on the second half so that it doesn't feel too repetitive. So here's the full melody with the lead and everything. I feel like that's pretty fire. I don't feel like it really needs anything else. So I'm gonna go ahead and bounce that out, and then I'll be right back to cook up some drums. All right, so I just bounced out the melody. The first thing that I'll do is I'll probably pitch it up like at least 100 cents, maybe speed it up to like 144, just get it going a little faster, just change it up so I don't get bored of the melody. So first thing I'll pull up is this clap from my kit. I'm just pull up this main clap. I use it in pretty much every beat, so. Also, I'm gonna make sure I drop my master preset on the master just so I know my drums are smacking. Now I'm gonna add in this hi-hat from my kit. I'm gonna use the Pierre hi-hat. It's pretty good for these type of beats. With these type of hi-hat patterns, you wanna do a good amount of stopping in the hi-hat patterns. Like you want it to stop whenever the melody cuts out. And then for any rolls that you put in there, you just want them to be straight line rolls. You don't wanna be changing your grid to like 1/3 grid or anything like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a pattern real quick. Sounds pretty good, so I'm gonna go ahead and just go into my presets, grab this soft hat preset. I'm gonna try to go ahead and add an open hat. I'm gonna go ahead and add my loud hat preset to that because it's a little soft. Grab it from my kit. And then I'm gonna grab 2 different snares. I'm gonna grab the no lie snare and the main snare, and I'm gonna go ahead and accent some of these clap beats a little bit. And then I'm gonna add this snare in right here. And then I'm gonna take off this second one, so I'll just copy this pattern over. And now I think it may be time for the 808. Normally you wanna start off with the Zay 808, and then there's a second one that I'm gonna add, which I'll show y'all in a minute. So in these type of beats, a lot of times the first hit of the 808 will go 4 times really fast, so I'll show you what that sounds like. And again, we know our original root note was C sharp, but we know we pitched it up one, so I'll go ahead and turn up that velocity and then turn up the volume a little bit on that. Hold up. And then I'm gonna grab the second 808 called the Cash-In 808. And then I'm gonna go ahead and do Command L on those and then drag this out until it hits right here. Maybe I like it better if they're both on the top octave. I might add some distortion on that 808. Hold up, maybe some British clean. Maybe turn it down. So yeah, now the only thing that I really want to add is this little like drum line pattern. I don't know exactly what you would call it, but I'll just call this pattern drum line. So with this last one, what you kind of want to do is just make a roll. So I'm gonna go into 1/6 beat and then just kind of make this snare roll right here. So I'm gonna use the brush tool to paint it in. So for the kick, I mean, you could just use a more live kick, but I'll just use the only good kick from my kit. And then I'll go ahead and make like a little 4 on the floor kick pattern. So, and then I'll put that on loop mode and I'll just turn the velocity all the way up on that kick so it sounds a little distorted. What I need right there is a little drum fill. So I'm gonna go to my boy Versus. Shout out to Versus, but I'm gonna go to his drum kit, grab this this little fill. So that sounds pretty gas to me. I'm pretty satisfied. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and finish out the arrangement and everything, and then I'll be right back. So yeah, that's pretty much the beat. I definitely think it sounds like something that babysantana or like Slump 6 would hop on. So let me know if y'all are messing with it down in the comments. And yeah, make sure y'all subscribe if you like this type of content. Make sure to go cop my drum kit and make sure to comment down below what you want to see next. Also, if y'all want to buy this beat, I'll leave a link down in the description. It'll be a link to my beat store. So if you want to cop a beat from me, that's definitely the way to go. Just click that link. It'll have all the prices, everything, terms and conditions listed. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. So I'm gonna see y'all in the next one. Peace.